Hello. My name is Dustina. This is Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of August the 4th to August the 10th. Now, getting into this week, I want to be absolutely clear from the beginning. If you've thought this Mercury retrograde has been hard so far, oh, babies, just wait. Because this is the most interesting week of them all. This is the most intense week of them all. There's only 3 weeks in a Mercury retrograde. Okay. The last two have been nothing in compared to what we deal with next. Now, there's a very specific vibration that is taking the lead into this week. And a lot of it has to do with Mars. Now, in the very beginning part of the week, Mars is going to go through a series of what's known as kind of secret transits. And I haven't talked about these in a while. I kind of hinted in the month ahead forecast that we're going to talk about these, but not everybody has heard of the next term that I'm about to bring up the way that I do in regards to transits, the way that I bring them up. Not a lot of people put them into the transit sometimes. And these indirect or secret transits, as I like to call them, has a lot of things brewing under the surface. And a lot of things that's been brewing under the surface, behind the scenes, once they come out, positive or negative, just to be clear, positive or negative, they cannot be undone. And I can see this coming through in a multitude of ways, depending on how in alignment you have been through this retrograde. I was very heavy about talking about the level of alignment in the month ahead forecast. The things that get exposed in this particular Mercury retrograde, again, they are impacting what we do in eclipse season. But a lot of that energy of what the new is going to be is based off of what we see in ourselves, that level of revealing, what other people showcase in themselves in regards to whether they are confident or not, whether they are healing or not, because there's been a lot of fragile ego energy all through this retrograde. And again, if you thought the first 2 weeks were trouble, this week is going to take the frickin' cake. Let your mind process that for a little bit before we really get into all of the transits. And I want to explain what the secret transit is called. There are two that we talk about, anticias and contra-anticias. This week, we get to deal with anticias. Secret, hidden oppositions. Oppositions that we don't directly see. We don't directly put into order. We don't directly know will be in opposition. For a lot of people, the opposition that will come through by the end of the week is bubbling below the surface the entire week because of how we're going to start part of the week. Now, to get an anticia, you have to fold the chart. Now, obviously, I can't fold the computer screen, and if I could, y'all wouldn't be able to see it. Let's be fair. But we have to fold the chart, and we specifically fold the charts at the start of the cardinal signs. Cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. We are folding them at either what's called the equinox line or the solstice line. In this particular case, it's the solstice line. The summer solstice is the first day of Cancer season. If we fold the chart at 0 degrees of Cancer, 0 degrees of Capricorn, we will lay signs on top of each other that do not normally aspect one another. So I got a little piece of paper. For those that have never seen this before, some of y'all have seen this before, and that's fine. Just wait a few minutes. Basically, again, if I fold the chart in half, where Cancer and Capricorn start, I have the ability to lay two signs on top of each other that would not normally touch. In this case, I would be laying Virgo on top of Aries. There is an in conjunction, not seeing eye to eye between the signs of Virgo and Aries. Why did I go blank? I almost said Capricorn. I went blank for a second. Anyways, if you, at the start of the week, quite literally the very, very start of the week, lay the signs on top of each other, Mars is going to be in an hidden opposition to both Saturn and Neptune. Now, Neptune is going to be more in the late hours of Sunday evening going into Monday. Saturn will be directly hit Monday morning. And what you have to do is you have to mathematically get the degrees between the two planets we're talking about to equal 30. And that's how we get them in the secret oppositions. That, again, is going to be the most exact on Monday. And I can see this kind of playing out in a multitude of ways before we reach the peak energy at the end of the week, whenever we go into the real oppositions and simultaneously the full moon in Aquarius. Now, if you've worked in the schools, if you've worked in public service in any way, like hospitals, in with the police, anything along those lines, you know, full moons make people crazy. Add a bunch of outer planets hitting aspects simultaneously, we got a whole different level of crazy that's going to be hitting. Now, sometimes full moons can have to do with completions. If we're dealing with a completion, we don't even realize it is a completion. For some people, it is going to be like the leveling up, the broadcasting of more, and the pushing of something new to come through. And I'm going to go again, that's more of a level up. For other people, it is going to be the start of a challenge that, again, takes forth the change of what we do in eclipse season. And the only way we can get that new to come through is to hit something head first. Now, this is a very intense week. And I again state this has to do with your level of alignment. And while Mars is still in Virgo, and that's going to last until the 6th, it really comes down to where you're at in your mental energy. Are you planning something? Are you trying to troubleshoot some things in your mind? Okay, if I go here, if I go here, if I go here, if I do this and do this and do this, then after I get these things done, I can go here and do this and present this and take this out and go to this place and do. That can be a lot more of a positive vibration. For other people, if your mental energy going through the first part of this week, again, up until the 6th, carries frustration, resentment, questioning, and some other negative aspects of the mental vibration, by the end of the week, it is very, very likely that you are going to be in the different kind of challenge. Because let's be honest, you can only bite your tongue for so long. A lot of people right now, you're biting your tongue. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. There's no reason to fight. There's no reason to be mad at each other. It's fine. It's temporary energy. The witchy lady says it's temporary energy. We can do this. We can manage it. It's going to be okay. I'm going to bite my tongue. And sometimes we bite our tongue to the point that our mouth fills with fluid. Just going to call it that for a moment. You pick the fluid. The fluid I'm going to pick will manifest. Let's keep going. You bite your tongue till your mouth fills. And what can happen is, even if you take moments to take a step away, take a step back, go in a different direction, go try something else, what you can come back to can be blindsiding with what happens next, with what begins in the challenge. Because some people are going to realize there's been something being cooked up behind the scenes, below the surface for quite some time, that once it is delivered, The disruption means this fluid feels more like gasoline, and this is fire. This is inflamed. This will burn. In the opposition that will come through this week. Now, when Mars transit goes into Libra, that again is going to happen on the 6th. By the time we get to the later parts of the 7th, all day on the 8th, and most of the 9th, the challenges of the entirety of the moon being in Aquarius, because that's also when the moon is in Aquarius, the challenges of that time frame will be mind-boggling. Now, for some people, you're going to feel your level of alignment. You're going to feel like you can put something into order, and you're going to make attempts to do so. And if you try to do something before Mercury turns direct, I promise you, some of y'all going to be hitting some brick walls. And even though you are in alignment, you are doing the right thing, you're still going to receive some level of judgment from people that are not ready to hear what you have to say. They do not care what you are doing. Trust me, if we're trying to launch something new, it is literally better to wait until next week, after the 11th, when Mercury goes direct. But some of us are going to try. We're going to put ourselves out there. And if that's the case, be prepared for the judgment. For other people, we are stewing on something. We're putting some final things together. We're getting some final signatures. We're doing some final filings with the idea that once it is filed, all hell is going to break loose. Once that information comes to light, all hell is going to break loose. Once we let the thing come out of our mouth, we turn this fluid to gasoline and we start breathing fire like a dragon. All hell is going to break loose. And the intensity by the end of the week, even if you don't have anything directly happening to you at that moment, you will still feel it. You will still feel people's anxiety. You will still feel people's frustration. And some people will recognize very quickly as this week continues, I got to go into hiding. I can't do this. What other people are going through, they have to go through on their own. And this is me talking to my healers that listen to me. Sometimes you got to let them go through whatever they need to go through and just focus on you. Because again, one of the other things that happens by the end of the week is a full moon in Aquarius. Now, Aquarius represents society, the masses, people. And there's even something regarding the collective that will come through this week. Because while we're going through the full moon in Aquarius, both the rulers of Aquarius, Saturn and Uranus, are making aspects to Mars, the god of war, the one that's bringing the disruption, the one that's breaking the news, the one that's really going to test the balance of whether we have our egos in check or not. There is something new that is going to be coming through this week. And once it comes to light, once that news hits the surface, once that energy fully comes out, it is going to shake so many people. Now, whenever I was meditating on these transits this morning, there was an old line from Theodore Roosevelt that kept hitting my brain, and that is walk softly and carry a big stick. Now, that was a metaphor that he had for our partnerships with foreign countries. It was a big part of his foreign policy. Touch people with a sense of respect. Respect their culture, respect their thoughts, respect their beliefs. And if you come from this point of softness, your reach will go further. Big stick, long stick. You'll touch more things. The branch will extend further. Given our current government and economic climate, let's be clear about some things. For some people in the collective, we're going to see the stick break. It's breaking. We're going to see the splintering. we're going to see that our reach is no longer quite what we thought it was. That's going to happen. There are going to be challenges to the economy that we haven't seen quite yet. There's been inklings on the radar. There have been things bubbling below the surface, but the true next round of challenge has not hit as much as it will as we go through this week. I mean it when I say the weight and the heaviness of whatever this week brings forward. It really is coming down to how much of alignment we are into right now. Everybody's in different places. And for some people, you're going to be mentally putting a lot of your energy into something you're willing to take forward and something that you're willing to adjust, something that you're willing to, show to other people. And some of us are going to try to show this week. And I want you to be prepared that there will be some levels of judgment. Some people will be very blindsided by certain withdrawals of support, withdrawals in certain beliefs. We thought something was going to go some way, and then we find out, oh no, opinions have changed, decisions have changed. And that in itself can create its own version of challenge and its own version of weight and frustration and tension. A lot of people are going to go into something new, again, with the idea that we want to level it up. But there will be some people that they reach some type of climax and completion that spirals us into a different direction that was not a part of the initial plan. But that doesn't mean that it's not where we're meant to go. Some people will be forced into the direction change. And I kind of talked about that in the intro of the month ahead forecast. And the big reasons why I push that there's going to be that type of like unplanned shift. This is the direction you take, hard left, hard right, however you want to word that. It is going to come through based off of what begins in the vibration with Mars when he hits the opposition to Saturn, when he hits the opposition to Neptune, when it goes through the trine with Uranus and the trine with Pluto, simultaneous to a full moon in Aquarius. The vibration will hit very, very hard for so many people. And as the week progresses, if you find yourself feeling rattled that you cannot handle the energy, the best thing that I can tell you to do is take a step back, but also go do something active. Put your energy into something that can be productive. Go clean the backyard. Don't necessarily crawl into the mechanics of a car. I don't want you to do that. But go have physical activity of some sort to work out that vibration. Because as this week progresses, the ability to sleep is going to get harder and harder because of how much amplified we will be as the week progresses. And this is the week that's really going to show you, if you haven't known so far, am I in alignment? Am I doing okay? Is this okay? Or have I made the wrong choice? Did I go the wrong direction? By the end of this week, you're going to know. You're going to recognize it even more as to whether you're in the right places or not. So they're a powerful and intense week that starts to shift many people's gears all throughout the rest of the month. Just being clear about that. All right. We're going to get into the week. We're going to get into the transits. Now, the thing about Monday is the moon is going to be in Sagittarius all day long. And I even talked about this at the end of last week's video. I do feel like the beginning of the week, we have a hopefulness and we do have a confidence in a lot of ways because the moon being in Jupiter's sign and also being in mutual reception with Jupiter. So the moon rules Cancer, Jupiter's in Cancer. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, the moon is in Sagittarius. Part of the vibration that's going on here is that there does seem to be this boost in confidence for a lot of people, or kind of an awareness of something that we hadn't directly considered. The thing about Cancer and Sagittarius is they're in conjunct one another. They don't see each other eye to eye. Like, it's a very different vibration. So it's like many of us, as we go through the day, we're building confidence, or we're trying to gain insight and knowledge from other people in regards to like unrealized gains, unrealized potential. We're looking at something from indirect standpoints in a lot of ways, of like, I hadn't considered, if I'd go this route, that this would also happen. I didn't know that by learning this trade, it would help me in another trade. It would help me in this other direction. A long time ago, I used to do a lot with different school systems, and I would talk to people about, like, if you learn certain types of mechanics, you would also be able to like specialize in more than one area. If you go into like the field of aviation mechanics, I'm going to use this as an example. You are not just certified in aviation mechanics, we're certified in every level of mechanics, from lawnmowers to big trucks. Like it's every level, because of how much you have to know about aviation mechanics. Like, you have to know all the different levels. Everything is universally helpful. So what you can run into throughout the day is these indirect vibrations that give us confidence that we didn't realize would be connected. And there is a hopefulness. And considering in this 12:30 to 2:30 a.m. standpoint, that's why I've got this at this 12:30 hour, by the way, is throughout that overnight hour, the sun is going to hit a trine to the moon. Now, the sun is in Leo. It's in its home sign. The moon, again, in this fire sign. A lot of fire energy can speak to confidence. It can speak to brashness. For some people, it can even be a little bit of overconfidence. We don't necessarily need any help with the overzealous vibration, but that doesn't mean that we won't get it sometimes. And there can be something that speaks to a hopefulness in the vibration. By doing this one thing, it's allowed me to expand in another area, but it's also allowing me to expand even in areas I hadn't previously considered. And this by itself can be hopeful. And whenever it comes to Monday, that's our only direct transit. Now, in the morning time, between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m., it's actually the most exact at 8 a.m., but I'm going to stop it right here. Again, if I was to fold the chart where we're at 0 degrees of Capricorn and 0 degrees of Cancer, Mars would be laying directly on top of Saturn in this vibration. I do also feel like there's going to be internalized energy, internalized downloads, internalized awareness, something cooking behind the scenes below the surface. Some of you are literally taking certain actions and doing certain things that someone else doesn't know about. Now, that could be positive. I'm working on a surprise party. I can't wait for this surprise party. It's going to be so fun to have a surprise party. I really hope we're all planning surprise parties, but let's be real. That's not always the case. Let's be just being real frank about that. For other people, we're working on something that either the other side is not aware of, the other side is not a part of, or we're doing it with the idea that we want to prove that something can work, and the other side doesn't even know that you are working. So it's like, if I put all my stuff in order, if I put all my stuff in a row, if I get all my plans put together, if I have the numbers to support everything that I'm saying, then when I show it off, they'll have to recognize it. They'll have to support. They'll have to believe me. And there can be hope in that too. For other people, we are doing some stuff behind the scenes, knowing that as soon as it comes out, it is going to create disruption. It is going to create chaos, and it is going to have levels of rage and anger that will come out very, very quickly based off of how the transits go this week. You know where you're at. Some of you are in a planning stage that it's going to take you forward into some new chapter of what you're doing in career or something like that, or with your family, anything in this area. Some of you know you about to piss off the boss. And Monday, we're really feeling ourselves like this is going to work. This is going to work. This is going to happen. There's no going back. Even if there is a timeline to go back, like you're not going back. That's the main thing. Now, again, that's the energy of Monday. As we get into the 5th, as we get into Tuesday, the moon is going to be in Sagittarius for about half of the day. This is our last full day of Mars being in Virgo. Again, Mars is going to change signs on the 6th, but it's going to transition in the afternoon, evening part, depending on your individual time zone. This is the last full 24-hour period of Mars being in Virgo. And again, our minds can be very, very aware of something that we're about to adapt, that we're about to change, that we're about to expose, that we're about to launch. There can be a lot of vibration towards information. Wherever you're at in your planning stage or whatever you're working on, that's a very different conversation. Okay. Now, in the overnight hours, getting into the morning time between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon in Sagittarius is going to make a trine to Chiron. Trines are triangles of fire to fire. I have a hopefulness moon in Sagittarius that this is how we can fix something Chiron in Aries, that this can be a cure, that this can be a fix, that this can be a solution. I have an understanding moon in Sagittarius hitting the trine to Chiron of why you're upset, of why you've been so hurt, of why you've been so frustrated. I've taken time to really comprehend, to consider, to understand. And there can be things in the morning time about solutions that we're kind of getting stuck on and talking about and working through. Are the solutions immediately being accepted? No. And in some ways, they might even be challenged. And as we continue through the morning time, 9:30 to 11:30 a.m., so I'm going to get this to 10:30. Now we have the Mars, 29 degrees, 10 minutes, hitting a square to the moon of 29 degrees, 11 minutes. Now, this is a square in the final degrees of a sign. And there can be the awareness that something is almost complete. Something is about to change. Something is about to happen. And as we go through the day on Tuesday, if you see little things that speak to an about to, be aware that about to can also be the foreshadowing to whatever is going to be unfolding later in the week. If you don't, Mars in this final placement of Virgo can be like, if you don't do the thing that I want, if you don't sign the thing that I want, or I am going to sign this, whether they like it or not. And again, imprinting the idea of something that there's no going backwards for some people, but for other people, it's going to be like, I'm getting a few things done with the idea that as soon as this is done, then I will be ready to present it. That's a little bit more of a positive way to do with it. But there can be the awareness that something is nearly done, that is nearly complete, or we're doing something for the last time in this vibration. Now, whether we're actually stating that in such a matter of fact vibration of like, I'm done. This is my last day in this job, or this is my last day doing this. We don't always have to be saying it that way, but there can always be that feeling and that awareness. Now, anytime Mars hits a square to anything, we can have challenges, we can have frustration, there can be tensions, but there can also be direction of a new responsibility and a new action that needs to be adjusted here. Or it's a mix of both. Something has to come to a close, and then it's going to result in new responsibilities as the day progresses. Now, why am I saying it that way? Because at 12:05, I got it at 12:30, the moon is going to go into Capricorn. Now, once the moon goes into Capricorn, the vibration is changing. And there is something about the work, something about the productivity, something about the order, something about the responsibility, something about what's going on with our elders, something about the effects of something that really starts to grab hold. And I really do mean it that once the moon goes into Capricorn, the mood will change. Now, for some people, because you just left a situation when Mars hit the square to the moon, that right there was the mood change. And we can't pick ourselves back up. We go from hopeful moon and Sag energy to stoic realism of the moon in Capricorn. and we just can't pick ourselves back up. We find ourselves being salty, or we find ourselves just focused on doing something else to be productive because I don't know why. I've got this mental anxiety. I've got this anguish. I've got this frustration. If I just go ahead and put all my energy over here, it's better focus. And that is a better focus. That is a better way to do. However, the moon is now in Saturn sign. And we are about to have another full moon in the other Saturnian sign. There can be things that go back to the previous full moon that happened just a few weeks ago that are coming back to the surface, that are coming back up into the forefront, that we're finding out why certain shifts have been necessary over the course of the last month. Some of us are going to be learning that things with our elders or with our bosses have changed, or the bosses and the people in those positions of authority, they're going to be making some final plans and accommodations for the decisions that they've made that they might not have put out yet. There's a very big transitional vibration as to like how we've been productive, the level of productivity that we will be continuing with, what we're doing next, and knowing that whatever next is going to be coming through over the course of these next few days, there's probably not going to be an undoing. And some people, whatever it is, they're going to be blindsided by whatever starts to come through. But the mood definitely changes once the moon goes into Capricorn. Okay, let's get back into the chart. Let's get back into this, and hopefully Mercury retrograde quits messing with my stuff. Okay. Again, the moon is going to go into Capricorn at 12:05 p.m. between 2 and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is whenever the moon is going to go through a square with Saturn simultaneously. Between 3 and 5 p.m., so bumping this now to 3:30 because that's kind of going to encompass both of them. The moon is also getting into a square with Neptune. Now, the thing about Saturn and Neptune is that for some people, these are two different things simultaneously. It's one, questioning the position of authority, questioning of an elder, questioning of a rule, questioning of a boundary, questioning of a dynamic, while also not being completely clear because it's the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And sometimes like one version of what we understand is not the full version of what's been going on. For other people, this is the foreshadowing and this is the warning. Hey, I think something's up. I got a bad feeling. I got a funny feeling. I think there's something going on with so-and-so. No. They're doing exactly what they need to be doing. And there's literally no awareness that something is going on with so-and-so. And they can be dismissive in this moment. Some will take it into consideration. You take something to a boss. Hey, I think Joe, I think Bob, I think something's going on over there. There's something funny. And okay, we'll take a look. We'll consider what's going on. We'll look at something, but you're not going to get an immediate answer. You're not going to have an immediate knowing of whether they took a look or not, whether they reviewed the cameras, whether they go and talk to Joe or Bob. There's not an immediate answer. So there's a lack of clarity in regards to what is needing to be done. There's something that is still not being seen clearly. And there can be elements that speak to frustration and confusion because, again, Neptune is so tightly involved. And if we're still feeling blinded by something, if we're still feeling confused, it's going to be hard to pick ourselves back up. And that's why I was saying, once the moon goes into Capricorn, the vibe changes, the mood changes. The things that are bothering us, the things that have been going on below the surface, behind the scenes, whatever it is, it's going to change. And some people are going to be doing things where they wrap some things up and start preparing for what they're going to do next. Other people are going to have no clue. You're just going to feel that twingle, sting vibration of the anxiety and anticipation, knowing that whatever new thing is coming, you're not allowed to see it until it hits. So be aware of your intuition. Now, after the moon goes through its squares with Saturn and Neptune, there ain't a whole lot going on. So again, if you have a place to put your energy, especially someplace productive, go clean the yard, go outside and play in the garden, clean the house, put some kind of organization together. Just try to do something to distract your mind. That's going to be the better way to handle things. I wouldn't expect a whole lot of like big production until, we work through the things that are really bothering us. Now, we're going to start to focus on the 6th. We're going to get into Wednesday. And in the overnight hours between 12:30 and 2:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, got this at 1:30, the moon in Capricorn is going to get the opposition to Venus. Now, this is helpful. And for some people, this right here is going to still be a part of the late energy of Tuesday evening. But for other people, this is going to be more a part of like some of what we deal with in the early morning hours, just for that human effect of talking to someone that gives comfort, talking to someone that we appreciate or shows appreciation back to us, someone that is taking care of something and taking responsibility for certain things, somebody that is nurturing certain things in regards to the opposition to Venus. This is actually a really nice transit, and it seems like really helpful energy. And sometimes you just need that person that can understand what's going on, even if they have nothing to do with the rest of the vibration, even if they have nothing to do with what's been going on in that moment. Sometimes you just need somebody who can talk to you and understand. Now, the other thing that Venus can do for some people here is give foreshadowing that somebody new is coming. Somebody new is about to arrive. I will arrive tomorrow. Some people will be like, hey, just, we're going to be driving into town. We'll be there by tomorrow evening. We'll be there by Thursday. We'll be there. We're coming. We're going to be there soon. Or it's like the foreshadowing of somebody's coming. Hey, I'm anticipating your Aunt Carol will fly in Thursday morning, just so you're aware, Wednesday night, just so you're aware. And there can be, again, foreshadowing of an arrival. Why am I saying that? Because Venus rules Libra, and we are now just less than 18 hours away from Mars arriving into Libra, into Venus's sign. So there can be foreshadowing here. Okay, we're going to keep this going. Between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I'm going to get this to the lunchtime hour around 12:30 right here, the moon is now going to hit an opposition to Jupiter. This is talking to the doctor, the guru, the teacher. This is talking about whatever has been going on with the elder. This is taking certain type of responsibilities or getting guidance of the responsibilities that we need to be doing. This is a good energy for training. This is a good energy for education. Some people might kind of struggle still with being productive or feeling like we can pick our mood up because the moon is in Saturn sign. And this particular week feels like a really heavy week for the moon in Capricorn. But that doesn't mean that we still can't have people that offer support, that offer help, that offer something to us in regards to feeling better, at least in the moment. Attaboy situations. This can still be helpful whenever we're talking to someone that can give us guidance, that can give us mental hope, that can give us support. Now, as the evening progresses at 6:24 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I'm going to bump this to 6:30, Mars enters Libra. Mars is now in Venus's sign. Now, the good news is Venus is in Cancer. She's in this place that it's happy for her. It exudes healing. It exudes certain amounts of confidence. But this arrival of Mars going into Libra can also bring disruptions. Now, for some people, we know Aunt Carol is flying in, but we don't know that Aunt Carol is sick. We don't know that something's been going on with Aunt Carol. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know that Aunt Carol is bringing paperwork for the trust of a grandpa or a grandma. We don't know that there's extra layers to this vibration. And if that arrival comes through, we feel that transition come through, be aware that this arrival comes with more than one thing, because now that Mars is in Libra, over the next 3 days, it's going to go through an exact trine with Uranus, the oppositions to Saturn and Neptune, and the trine to Pluto, literally just immediately following. So we might have an arrival that comes with layers, that comes with additional information, that comes with baggage. Some of us are going to be feeling confident that we can go start something, Mars going into Libra, knowing that whenever we start it, we're hitting multiple points all at once. And even those points can still come with levels of judgment. Are we feeling all of the judgment Wednesday evening? Not necessarily, but again, the moon in Capricorn is kind of struggling. I really feel like the moon in Capricorn this time has some struggles to it. But we're going to keep this going. We're going to get into the 7th. And the moon is going to be in Capricorn for most of the day. It's going to be kind of, again, more focused on being productive, trying to get things going, trying to get things grounded, trying to get some things put together. As we get into the afternoon, we get our first transit, and this is going to happen between 2 and 4 p.m. The moon in Capricorn at 26 degrees, 49 minutes is going to hit a square to Chiron, questioning the wound, questioning the pain, questioning who's responsible. Now, some people will not like that. Now, considering Chiron is in Mars' sign, and again, Mars just changed signs, the questioning can also bring new bits of information. That can be good, that can be bad. Well, have you ever tried yoga? Did you know if you're having pain in your hips or pain in your feet, it can go all the way up to your hips? And if you work your pelvic floor a certain way, if you work your hip flexors, you completely can realign your body. Did you know? No, I've never tried that. Well, it's true. And this can be one way to heal something, moon square Chiron. For other people, it's going to be because the arrival of something new, it instigates an old wound in a new way, moon square Chiron. But I'm also focused on Chiron as, in fact, in Mars's sign. And as we continue, we're going to have the next little piece of activations and foreshadowing going into the evening time, because at 8:19 p.m. Central Standard Time, I got this now at 8:30, the moon is going to go into Aquarius. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. As soon as the moon goes into Aquarius, we are going to feel the intensity of the full moon. There will be no downtime, no prisoners. The moon's going to switch signs, and it immediately starts to activate those outer planets. And it is immediately going to bring some things to the surface that is going to be triggering some levels of insecurity, have some vibrations that speak to expect the unexpected, as well as become aware that there is a new challenge in the arena. And this is why I was saying, if we have some type of arrival that comes through in this 24-hour period, the arrival before the moon goes into Aquarius speaks to extra layers, extra levels, and extra parts of the new that will bring challenges. And the entire time the moon is in Aquarius, so, and again, this is going to start real late on the 7th. It is going to continue all the way to the 9th. So for the next 2.5 days, we're going to feel it. The entire time we're in the full moon vibration, the entire time we're in trigger territory, the entire time we are going to feel that frustration towards challenges. And again, if you are energetically sensitive, this is a good time to pull back from some people, because there's going to be so much of it that is too much for a lot of people. All right, we're going to keep this going. We're going to get back into those transits, and let's start this roller coaster. Now, between 8:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so bump this now to 9:30, Mars is going to hit its trine to the moon. So you see Mars, this is 0 degrees, 42 minutes, and here's the sun. I'm pushing this new information. This is a 0 degree Mars to a 0 degrees moon. I'm pushing some type of new information. I'm letting you know there's some kind of new disruption. I'm letting you know there's some level of a new challenge. I'm bringing it to your attention. And for a lot of people, this is also bringing forth an expect the unexpected vibe. Why do I say that? Because between 9:30 and 11:30 p.m., while the moon is still engaged with this trine with Mars, it is also activating a trine to Uranus. Uranus and Mars will have their actual trine on the 8th. So there's activations right here that takes us into the extra layers. And some of us have no idea that your Aunt Carol, I don't know who Carol is. I'm just, whatever it is, I'm just using the most mundane name. We have no idea that Aunt Carol is about to do a bunch of extra things, that Aunt Carol is coming with legal paperwork. We don't know what we don't know. But you can have that kind of phone call going, yeah, just so you know, I'm in town. It'd be so nice if we can have lunch tomorrow. Wouldn't it be so great? Yeah, let's totally have lunch. Yeah, ulterior motives are real. Be aware of that. Understand that there can be also new levels of mental inspiration. There can be also new levels of exciting ideas, as well as new levels of unexpected disruptions that have more than one area that's being impacted. Because again, this is like a grand trine energy of air, air, air. Uranus in Gemini, trining Mars in Libra, to the moon in Aquarius, moon to Uranus, all are impacted. This is a lot of mental energy. This is a lot of whirlwind speaking. This is a lot of new vibrations coming through. And even if there are solutions in the new, that doesn't mean that the immediate impact can't be harsh, because it can be, and for a lot of people, it will be. Okay, now, next one, between 10 p.m. and midnight. So I'm going to bump this to just an hour. The moon is also going to start its sextile to Saturn between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Moon is going to start its sextile to Neptune. So we have all this vibration that speaks to the mental energy of the moon, Uranus, and Mars, going straight into the moon making sextiles to Saturn, Neptune, who are in Mars's sign. So there is something new that has come to the surface. There is something new that needs to be understood. And this can have to do with the elder, Saturn. This can have to do with law, Saturn. This can have to do with authority figures, Saturn. This can have to do with responsibilities. And some people are going to be aware of new responsibilities. Some people are going to find out that they're no longer responsible for certain things because, again, the moon is hitting a sextile. Sextiles aren't nearly as intense, but again, Saturn is in Mars' sign, and we're building to an actual opposition to Mars. Now, the trine between the moon will be done by midnight, at least for me here in the Central Standard Time. What I start to explain next, it's taking us now into the 8th. We're still in the same vibration. We still have the same things going on. So basically, for a lot of people, whatever starts to happen in Thursday evening is carrying us into Friday. For other people, there's going to be this ping pong effect of a bunch of different things. And if we got something going on with an elder, that would make sense. For other people, it's going to be something else completely. For other people, it might be a multitude of things. Now, between 11 p.m. on the 7th and 1 a.m. on the 8th, that's why I went ahead and bumped it to the 8th, the moon is also hitting that sextile to Neptune. We can be getting a call from an elder right before midnight and then find something that we didn't necessarily understand or we didn't know about when the moon hits the sextile to Neptune. Now, between 11:30 and 1:30 a.m. on the 8th, the moon actually hits its exact conjunction to Pluto. Now, this is actually the most exact right before we get to 12:30. So you can see here's the moon, 2 degrees, 18 minutes. Here's Pluto, 2 degrees, 15 minutes. Whatever new thing comes to the surface over the course of Thursday evening going into Friday morning, for a lot of people, it is going to be triggering. It is going to be unnerving. It is going to bring up wounds. It is going to bring up trauma. For some people, it is going to be old wounds and old trauma. For other people, it is going to be, I need support getting through whatever the hell is going on right now. I need help. I need the adultier adult. Somebody talk to me. Somebody tell me what to do. And there are going to be these things that string to levels of fear. And a lot of us are going to have things that spike us and spin us into different spirals. Now, one of the things that have started to happen over the course of the 7th and the 8th, going into this energy, because we're still only at 12:30 at this time frame, is Mercury is stationing. Mercury is spinning in one area of the sky, and our minds are going to be spinning. And there will be things that come up that make our minds go to spinning. And over the course of the evening time, these overnight hours, well, I should say those overnight hours in the early morning, the moon is even going to hit an opposition to Mercury. And that is going to be felt the most exact between 4 and 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this now at 4:30. Here is Mercury, 4 degrees, 42 minutes. Here is the moon, 4 degrees, 30 minutes. Now, some of us, whatever is starting to come to the surface, it is weeks in the making. It goes all the way back to some of the stuff that was going on in late June, early July, and something else is coming to the surface that we did not anticipate. There is something from previous events that is now coming around that we did not anticipate, especially that first week of July. But it's a whole different level. It's a whole different ballgame. Some of us, we are the ones bringing the new thing through, and our new thing is being triggered by two other people. We are triggering them. Some of it is going to instigate levels of frustration and insecurity. Some of us, it is going to be the unexpected and it is going to be excitement. But some of us are going to be learning some things that we had absolutely no clue about. And some of us are going to be learning that we can't get our minds off of certain things when the moon hits that opposition to Mercury of, I should have known when I agreed. I should have known when I met with them. I should have known when this happened. I should have known when she said that thing that something wasn't right. The moon hitting the opposition to Mercury. And again, Mercury is back in a place in the sky that he ain't been to since the last week of June and the first full week of July. He's been here before. So be aware of that. Okay. Now, as the day progresses, we don't have a lot of lunar transits. We're getting now into the Mars stuff and Mars doing his bigger stuff. So again, we could have had foreshadowing and activations of things throughout that overnight hour going into of Thursday going into Friday. And now we're hitting the bigger exact things. So I want to get this first to 1:30 p.m. And what's happening right here is this is whenever Mars goes through its exact trine with Uranus. So here's Uranus 1 degree, 7 minutes. Here's Mars 1 degree, 7 minutes. We're in this vibration all day long. Now, Uranus is in Mercury's sign, but Mercury is retrograde, Mercury is spinning. And there can be certain things based off of like us going back over a previous conversation, talking about things that previously came up that have us like telling somebody something they didn't know about unexpectedly. And it wasn't that we were keeping it from them. It was one of those things that once you're finally able to sit down and catch up with that friend, or you've been separated from your ex and you sit down and talk to their sister or someone else around them, and they can give you a whole extra different level of insight that you didn't have before. You sit down and talk to that girl that your boyfriend's been stepping out with, and she can give you the whole other side of the story. There's something in that vibration. And I want people to understand that there's going to be an expect the unexpected. There's going to be the next level, the next wave of something new coming through. But for some people, whatever comes through here is a recapturing of a prior event of information that we did not know. And there is a level of exposure. And that level of exposure can also lead to challenge, frustration, tension, and fighting. Because remember, Mars is hitting an opposition to Saturn. It's not exact yet. While it's going through that trine with Uranus, it's also opposing that Saturn. And it will actually go exact later in the evening time. And this is going to go the most exact between 9:43 and 10:20 p.m. So I got this down at 10:30. Now, over the course of the day, the moon is going to go through a quincunx to Venus and Jupiter. I am playing that into that. And quincunxes are like not seeing eye to eye. Some people are going to be having some information told to them that we don't know if we believe it or not. We don't know if it's true. And it's like we have to go check our sources. We have to go check some other things. We have to go talk to other people that weren't initially a part of the vibration. And if they can confirm, again, the stuff that we don't know, there is going to be tension. There is going to be frustration. There is going to be challenges. There's going to be a fight. Mars hits that opposition to Saturn. Now, here's the deal. Saturn is in Mars' sign, and Saturn in Aries is not well placed. He is said to be in his fall in the sign of Aries. And there are going to be certain things that can challenge people in positions of power, people in positions of control, people in positions of authority. There is a challenge here. Now, it is the start of something in the challenge because it is happening at the beginnings of new signs. But Saturn is retrograde and Saturn is kind of in a retreat mode. And some people will have certain challenges that even if you are in alignment with the new things that you want to do, there will be things that start to trigger and hit you that are going to send you back to the drawing board. It is going to put you back to unfinished business, even if it's not happening in this exact moment. In the long run, by the time we get to eclipse season, which is going to be all of September, we will be back to unfinished business because by then Saturn will be back in Pisces. So this type of challenge can literally derail people from the new that they're trying to do. And that again is going to go into that level of alignment or not. Are you in alignment or not? There's a reason we'll have to go back to the drawing board. It's because we need to revise something. And this can be that first event that shows you, hey, you got to go back to the drawing board. Something needs to change. Something ain't going to continue. Now, we are still in the trine with Uranus and Mars. We will still be in the opposition with Saturn. We're going to keep this going. We're now going to get into the 9th. And of course, right after midnight at 2:55 a.m. Central Standard Time, so we got this now at 2:30. It's going to be close enough. Here is our full moon in Aquarius. There's so much going on. We're hitting full moon energy. We're in the full moon energy all day on the 8th. It goes exact after midnight on the 9th. We still have Mars in that opposition to Saturn. We still have Mars leaving that trine to Uranus, starting its opposition to Neptune and entering its trine to Pluto. And this is going to be disruptive. It is going to bring things to light that are triggering. For some people, it will have some level of confusion. For other people, it'll be levels of inspiration. We will have that full moon, and later in the week, I will do a full episode on the full moon in Aquarius. We'll break some of these signs down a lot better based off of sign. Just know we are in full moon vibration. Now, some of us are going to be going into levels of shock throughout the day. We're not going to be moving as fast. We're not going to be doing the same things that we were. And there's almost a stoic level of shock to confusion as we get into the afternoon on the 9th. And our next transit is going to go the most exact between 4:55 p.m. Central Standard Time and 5:33. Again, we're in this all day. It's just the most exact here. And I always try to show you guys the most exact. But this is whenever Mars is going to hit its opposition to Neptune. Some people, the actions that we take next are because we don't have the same beliefs as before. The actions that we do now is because we don't have the same level of lies impacting us anymore. Neptune's vibration can be about lies, fraud, deception. Neptune's vibration can have to do with spirituality and healing. It's always a mixed bag with Neptune. For some people, it will be the symptoms. And because we have certain symptoms going on with our elders, Saturn conjunct Neptune in that opposition to Mars, we realize because certain symptoms have come to the surface, now other people can't continue something the same way. And that's a big possibility. Because we don't have, for some people, it will be because we don't have the same responsibilities. We understand now we can take a different kind of action. Whether it's a good action or not, that's a different conversation. But there's a shock in the vibration. There's a shock to the system that is going on. And as we continue, it is even going to get us to a point that we have to start processing a different level of emotions. It's not necessarily happening right here, but there still can be something that comes through in like a mental flood of energy. The more positive way to deal with Mars opposite Neptune, if Saturn wasn't there, I would be a little bit more in that stoic version of that. This could be a very big creative energy. Some people can be like, I have to go do something creative because I don't know what the hell just happened. And if I don't go out and touch dirt, pick up a paintbrush, do something different, if I don't let this vibration flow out of me, then it is going to hinder me. And I have no other choice. I have to do something to work out the funk. And that's a big possibility too. Now, as we continue between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to make a sextile to Chiron. So here's the moon, 26 degrees, 57 minutes, and here's Chiron, 27.6. It's going to be really hard to understand different solutions, but there can be understanding of new wounds. And that is what I feel like we can start to see the pattern of getting later into Saturday as to, I need help understanding a wound. I need help understanding what's going on. What has hit the collective? What's going on in the world? What just happened to my grandpa? What is going on? And we need help understanding a wound. And as Saturday progresses, there can be that level there. Some people are going to go into research mode. You're going to go online and start typing it all in, like, what is the effects of leukemia? What happens after a stroke? What happens after this? What happens? What happens? What do we not know? What do we do know? What is this? And that can be a big part of the vibration. And kind of goes into that mental spiral part of it. And for some people, we need to just go through the mental spiral. Our minds will be spinning. And if we're trying to do something, there ain't going to be a whole lot we can do. And I want to be clear about that. Some of us are just going to be on our edibles. I'm probably one of them. Anyways, moving along. We're going to get into the 10th. And right after we get into Sunday at 1:51 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 2:30, the moon is going to go into Pisces. Now, once the moon goes into Pisces, it is a very different mentality. It is a very different vibration. It is a very different focus. And there are going to be some new emotions coming to the surface. Now, the mental energy is still spiraling. Mercury is still stationing. And at this point, whenever the moon goes into Pisces, we're about 24 hours away from Mercury turning direct, but it's not turning direct on the 10th. It will be the 11th. It will be Monday. It will literally be how we start the next week. The spiral is still in high effect. And because we are mentally spiraling in some ways, we also need to figure out different levels of healing. We need to understand the new levels of emotions that are being purged to the surface. We need to understand some of the things that we are about to start to be drawn back towards. And that's really going to come through while the moon is in Pisces. Now, why am I saying it like this? We just had a full moon in Aquarius, and that is the last lunation before we get into eclipse season, full moon lunation, because our next one will be the full moon in Pisces. So there is something here that shakes things that have been a long standing, shakes things that we have been stubborn about, that we suddenly feel an emotional need to switch our gears, shift our focus, do something different in our mentality and in our mindset. But before we can fully understand what that gear shift is, we have to work through our emotions. And the vibration of where we're going to be at in the energy, once the moon goes into Cancer, for some people, it is going to be very, not moon in Cancer, once the moon goes into Pisces, it's going to be very, very heavy because the moon is in mutual reception to Jupiter. Jupiter is in Cancer. And the only way we can start to heal something is to allow ourselves to process our emotions in ways that we normally wouldn't process them. And that moon in Pisces is going to get real heavy for a lot of people with the amount of things that need to flow and come out. And there will be a flooding of certain emotions in so many ways. Okay, getting back into the transit. Again, the moon is going to go into Pisces at 1:51 a.m. Central Standard Time. Right after the moon goes into Pisces, it's going to start a square to Uranus. That's going to be felt the most exact between 3 and 5 a.m. So I got here the moon 0 degrees, 57 minutes. And here's Uranus 1 degrees, 9 minutes. So we're really close to it. It goes exact closer to 4 a.m. For some people in these overnight hours, you're going to have something new come through that kind of hits unexpectedly. And that can be just the emotions. There can be something new that comes through that offers some initial information that will result in clarity later, but it's not clarity in this moment. Our minds are still spinning. And some of us are going to be dealing with the idea of like the need for mental clarity and emotional processing simultaneously. And this can feel like an internal challenge for a lot of people. But for some people, this will be the physical effects of somebody new coming through and calling unexpectedly. And it can add extra layers to what all the human effect of everything that else that has gone on. But considering Mars is still in that opposition to Saturn, it's still in that opposition to Neptune, it's still going through that trine to Uranus, and it's starting to go into its exactness with Pluto, we're still in a matter of tension and frustration, even though we're also in our emotions. Our initial response over the course of Thursday, Friday, Saturday might not have been emotional, but by the time we get to Sunday, we are far more aware of our emotions. Okay, now, as we get into the morning time, between 6:59, went too far, and 7:36 a.m. Central Standard Time, this is when Mars, 2 degrees, 12 minutes, will go through its exact trine to Pluto. I have a desire, Mars. Pluto is more in the position of Transformation in the positive sense, understanding fear, trauma, and triggers. In a neutral sense, causing fear, trauma, and triggers in the negative sense. Some people will need to understand why they just got re-triggered by something. Other people are going to be in a place where they are experiencing the trauma and the triggers over the course of this week. And again, while we're going through levels of emotional processing, it's like we have to get to a point that we can talk to somebody about the stuff they don't know about. We need advice from certain people that they're not used to dealing with these things. Now, are we getting all of our advice at 7:30 in the morning? Absolutely not. Let's be real. The moon is going to be in Pisces all day long. And there is going to be a desire to find some kinds of solutions. And as we get into the very, very late parts of the evening time, I'm just going to bump this to 11:30. We will get to a point where we start to want to understand more, and we start to, again, reach out to these people that can offer support and understanding. The moon is going to hit a trine to Venus. This is going to start on the 10th. It will carry us into the 11th. And whenever we're going through these trines between Venus and Jupiter, this will also be when Mercury goes direct. But some level of emotional understanding, again, for the solution or what has happened or why something arrived, will be what finally calms our mental energy and allows for certain levels of turnaround. But again, this turnaround, it's not really happening until we get into next week, because the first thing that we're going to deal with on the 11th is going to be Mercury turning direct. But we have to get to the height, get to the peak, get to the explosion volcanic point for some people to understand. Now, the thing is, some of us are going to be completely right and righteous by the challenge that we offer. If Aunt Carol comes with extra paperwork, it might be because Aunt Carol's been the one responsible for Grandpa this entire time. And she might be right. And other people do need to sign off on some type of a power of attorney or understanding of some extra kind of document. And that's the reason she's coming. It's like, look, you're not there. You're not doing anything with this. You're not coming. I'm not asking you to come. But sometimes people will take that as an offense. Like, I've been helping. I sent money 6 months ago. That was 6 months ago. Expenses have been piling. I need you to sign off on this. And there might be a reason for that arrival of Aunt Carol, whoever Aunt Carol is in the situation. For other people, it is that boiling of something going on below the surface that once it comes out, there is no going back and there is no undoing. But the thing is, we need for it to come out. And some of what's been going on behind the scenes below the surface, that planning, that negotiating, that working of the actual documentation, we have to hit that lawsuit. I'm going more of legal stuff because I'm thinking of the moon being in Virgo and all the documentation of what Virgo represents, but then going into Libra when Mars goes in, I'm sorry, Mars in Virgo, but then Mars going into Libra, of the righteousness of doing the things that are fair. And there's a lot of legality things to the sign of Libra. There's a need to be fair. There's a need to put certain challenges out there. And there's going to be a need to challenge people in positions of authority that aren't seeing things clearly. Now, how that challenge comes through in the human effect, roll the dice. We are still in a vibration that speaks to exposing the fragile ego, testing the actual authentic ego, testing the confidence, testing what we see. By the end of the week, some people will realize the test is showing them you've gone too far. You've poked the bear too many times. You're going to have to take a sidestep. You're going to have to put some things to the side. Are we going to put everything aside to the side all at once? No, I think it's going to come over the course of like a series of things throughout the rest of the month before we get into eclipse season. For other people, you are going to present the new thing. And it's like you're presenting it to your worst critic first, knowing that if you can win them over, that you will be fine. If you can't win them over, you will be happy to prove them wrong. And there's a vibration that speaks to the challenge, even in regards to challenging ourselves. And it really kind of comes down to who your chart ruler is and who your time lord is in these vibrations. If you are Saturn or Neptune ruled, you're going to be pulling some things back, withdrawing certain supports, not offering the same levels. If you're Venus or Jupiter ruled, you are at a position of support this week. If they are your time lords, you are a position of support. If you are a Scorpio rising like me, obviously in some ways we're causing the drama because Mars is like the leader of the pack and then ends it with a trine to Pluto. And it is either going to trigger massive levels of transformation in the power struggles. It is going to trigger certain people who have been in positions of authority. It is going to trigger things with the elders. Or it is going to be the energy with what's going on with our elders and the level of responsibility that needs to be taken and how we push forward into new actions. Is as the week continues, you are feeling the amplification of the vibration, but it's not hitting you directly. It is okay to take steps back. It's probably the best thing for you. But some of you have no choice but to deal with the challenge because it is showing you again, whether you are in alignment or not, whether you are ready or not, or it is telling you why you have to take a side step. That you can only go as far as you have gone. And some things are going to have to come to a stopping point. And for some of us, we're going to finally feel and hear the level of support that we no longer have from certain people. We kind of talked about that in the month ahead. That as you keep taking steps forward into what you feel is the right thing for you to do, there are going to be other people that you are realizing you have rubbed them the wrong way. We're going to know that this week too. And whatever opinion Bob and Joe have, let them get it out. And just remember, you have the ability to prove them wrong. And that's going to be okay. An intense week is temporary energy. Long-term things can happen in temporary energy, but that doesn't mean that we stay in the volatile energy forever. Challenges this week will be necessary on individual levels and for the collective. Be aware of what you're seeing Sunday evening, going into Monday, what you're wanting to do, because that is giving you the foreshadowing as to whether you're going to experience negative challenges by the end of the week or not. Be aware of what's coming through. Be aware of who you're connecting to. Be aware of the ideas that you are having and what you can feel yourself preparing for. Are you bracing for impact? Or are you ready to run with the frickin' bulls? Tune in to yourself. And then hit me up with questions. Y'all know how to find me. I answer the questions. I might not answer them immediately because when I'm doing stuff like this, the phone's on do not disturb, but still, it is what it is. All right. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Hit me up with questions. Hit me up with concerns. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.